I'm Martin Osment. I'm the disability officer for Mars and Minerva Shooting Club at Bisley. I started shooting at school as a cadet in the Air Training Corps, ATC, and at the tender age of 13 years and 9 months, we were allowed to shoot .303 rifles. Currently, I shoot 2.2 long rifle using Ruger 10-22 semi-automatics, and again, because of my wrists, I've had to give up shooting .308 because I can't operate a bolt, so I now shoot 5.56 using the Mars action rifle. I was smashed up in a light aircraft crash in 1993, and subsequently that was exaggerated by a road traffic accident in 2003. Essentially, my knees are in a bad way. I have very variable, very limited walking. I can't stand for any length of time, meaning more than a few minutes at a time, and basically my wrists are badly damaged. So I have almost no strength in my wrists. I was originally trained as an engineer. I can pick up a spanner, but I can't do anything with it because I haven't got the strength in my wrists to tighten up nuts or to undo tight nuts, for example. So I am physically very restricted in terms of what I should still be able to do if I hadn't had the 2 accidents. When it comes to shooting, I fumble and struggle to generate the force necessary to put rounds into a magazine, although I usually succeed in doing it. But if not, I prevail on someone else to do that for me. But when it comes to the actual shooting, I'm unable now to operate a manual bolt conventionally. If it's a particularly light one, I can usually manage it with 2 hands, but that's not exactly what was intended. So realistically, I'm limited to shooting the 22LR, which has a blowback action, which cycles the mechanism, or shooting the 223 Mars, where the action is returned by bleeding off some of the propellant gas from the barrel in order to firstly extract the spent case, which is where if it were a normal bolt action, you'd need a significant pull on that bolt. And then secondly, you would normally twist the bolt in order to engage the extractor to extract the spent case, and of course the Mars action does that as well. When you consider any of the reloading systems that operate using propellant gas, for someone like me, they have 2 huge advantages. One is you don't need any wrist strength in order to extract and eject the spent round, and the other is the inherent nature of the propellant gas system is that it provides substantial cushioning from the kick, so the recoil is very significantly absorbed. For example, if today I tried firing a conventional .308 bolt action rifle, after 10 rounds my shoulder would be hurting quite considerably. If I shoot for a couple of hours with a Mars rifle and shoot between 50 and 100 rounds, I don't feel a thing. So there is an enormous difference in the practicality between using the kind of rifle that a normal able-bodied person can use and the kind of rifle that a person such as myself with disabilities can use. I'm not aware of any other rifle that is currently available that I would be able to compete with. If the propellant gas extract and eject system as used on the Mars were banned completely, then it would exclude me from full bore shooting, and of course many others like me. I don't believe it is practical to convert the Mars as we have them to semi-auto or full auto, and the reason is that the ones in the UK market are bespoke built with different parts that do not interchange with those of similar semi-automatic and automatic rifles. The reality is that any semi-automatic and automatic rifles that are in criminal hands today are not acquired by taking legal UK firearms and converting them. I think one's got to look at a balance. Clearly, any crimes involving knives and any crimes involving corrosive substances, whether acids or alkalis, are heinous, and we should do all we can to equip our law enforcement people with every resource that they need in order to prevent these. I fail to see the point of taking steps against legitimate holders of firearms certificates, who after all are the most extensively screened people in the country. The number of checks that are required to go through, the level at which people are investigated, and the precautions that they're required to take, and indeed the training that they are required to undertake and indeed retake on a regular basis and requalify. For example, a safe shooter certification card is nowadays only issued once a year on proof that you continue to be competent. And you can't shoot on most ranges without it. A firearms certificate is renewed every 5 years, subject to good behaviour. If someone has indicated that they're not safe with firearms, then their firearms certificate is properly withdrawn and any guns in their possession are taken into police custody. And clearly that's absolutely right. But if people are considered trustworthy enough to have access to firearms, whether they hold them personally or whether they're in a club armoury or wherever, then clearly those are amongst the most law-abiding people in the country. And what we are concerned with is criminal misuse of firearms. So therefore, addressing issues of what might happen in the event that security was breached in respect of any private holder really is totally begging the question. It's looking at less than 1% of the problem and ignoring the other 99%. And that 99% is the people who have and use firearms illegally. One should be addressing the issues of the people who are misusing firearms, knives and corrosives, and not making life difficult for the ordinary law-abiding citizen. If someone is sufficiently determined to get their hands on a firearm, it is perfectly possible to take a car across the channel, go to places in France and Belgium that are advertised on the internet, to buy whatever you pretty much want and to bring it back in your car. And the chance of it being picked up by customs and the border force is frankly, I'm told, very, very slim. I remember seeing a news article only a few months ago on the television where someone was caught bringing their boat back in from France, and it had something like 50 Scorpion submachine guns on board that boat. Now, if someone was able to buy those that easily, regardless of whether or not they succeeded in bringing them into the country, it would clearly be a much easier option for them to go and buy those guns on the continent rather than take something which is intended for target shooting and convert it into a weapon intended to do harm. I really can't see that the effort is justified. So again, we come back to this crunch issue of one should be addressing the behaviour of the user and not the existence of the item.